I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain." Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'"
Picture the scene, if you will. The boys had been given a new football and the promise of a trip to the park as soon as Mum had finished a phone call. They waited in the living room, which had been recently decorated. It looked beautiful. Mum's much loved and very valuable vase had been put back. Strict instructions were given to the boys to wait, but no, I'm sure you're with me. What started as a gentle toe tapping led to a kick, and who could do a higher kick? Yes, you've guessed it. It hit the vase, and then a display of flowers. They crashed to the ground. What looked so good was spoilt. Actually, I own up, I can remember skipping in the living room and breaking an ornament, albeit many years ago. The scene, everything being very good, is how we've been taken in the sermon series. God looked at all he had made, and it was very good. But Davina, thank you for that reading with lots of place names. Our reading has taken jumps in events. And the Israelites now find themselves in Egypt, being very badly treated and needing to be rescued. We've probably all enjoyed the story of Moses, how he was rescued by the Egyptian princess and how he grew up under Pharaoh. Years later, as a grown man, Moses was to visit the Israelites, and when he saw how they were being treated, he absolutely lost his temper and killed one of the Egyptians. This act was witnessed, and Moses then escaped, and now we find him doing an ordinary job, watching over sheep, and having been amazed at the sight of the burning bush. And then he hears God speaking to him directly. God states that he's seen exactly what is going on, and as the passage records, He says, I have come down to rescue them. Hundreds of years later, and fulfilling many promises, God, seeing the plight of the human race, sent his own Son as his rescue plan. It was Jesus who would live as a human being and who would rescue many with his love and his compassion. It was he who would show women that they had a part to play. It was he who would touch the leper and the untouchables. It was he who would give sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf. In spite of what Moses had done, God spoke to him face to face as a friend. And skipping forward again, think now how that personal relationship was to be the model that we see in that relationship that Jesus had with his friends. And we're just going to hear that passage from John's Gospel.
I have loved you, even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you these things so that you will be filled with joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. This is my commandment: love each other in the same way I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you slaves, because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends, since I have told you everything the Father told me. You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. This is my command: love each other.
Just let those words go into your heart this morning, that Jesus is our friend. I think it's just amazing. Thank you, Judith. But to go back to Moses, having heard God speaking to him and the promise that yes, God would come down and rescue his children, now Moses hears something more. He was utterly shocked by what God was saying, because God was calling him to do something. He was to be a leader. However he had messed up, there was a new beginning for him. And Pete Hughes, in the book All Things New, which Dave has been using for the sermon series, describes this period for the Israelites as a period of exile, homesickness, and the hope for a new life. And when I read the chapter I was given, it reminded me, sometimes I think in life we do feel a bit like an exile. We do sense homesickness. We want things to be better. And we do hope for a new way of life that will be consistent. And then Moses heard these words, "Go, I am sending you. You will lead my people out of Egypt." Then there is the human reaction from Moses. "Who am I? God, you must be joking. You must have made a mistake." Those wonderful words follow. "I will be with you." And whatever God might be saying to us, As we go out of that door, please remember those words, I will be with you. Poor Moses, but you know, when God calls us, he does not concentrate on our ability, but on our availability. As I was preparing for today, I thought about human ability and availability. I was reminded of one of my favourite films, The King's Speech, when, following the abdication of his brother Edward VIII, George found that he was to be the next king. He, with his severe stutter and already the knowledge of the unrest in the world that would lead to the Second World War, he had an enormous task ahead of him. Yet, in one of his early Christmas broadcasts, he used the words of by the Christian poet Minnie Haskins. I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown. And he replied, go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. I'm sure those words will be familiar to many of you. In the beginning of chapter 4 in Exodus, we find Moses still protesting. God asks him, Moses, perhaps he said, don't keep on, but Moses, what have you got in your hand? Moses replied, my shepherd's staff. God says, throw it down. And Moses did as he was instructed, and it immediately became a snake, showing that in every way, when God calls us, he equips. This is God's power made perfect in weakness. And Moses knew that that would be true for him. And it's true for each one of us, isn't it? That God does make his power made perfect in our weakness. So I wonder, as you go home and you're perhaps surveying the Sunday roast, what do we think of or take from this passage? Is it just a reminder of an Old Testament hero? Or are there challenges and encouragements for ourselves wherever God has placed us and whatever our circumstances? Just maybe we're being called to a new chapter in our lives. On a personal note, I can understand this as on this coming Tuesday, I stand down as a chaplain at the Prue after 35 years, and I have to adjust to this change. I face a new challenge, and it's got to be about my availability. It won't be about my ability, I don't think, but maybe we really find it difficult to be honest with God. Yes, we may think our lifestyle is honest, we're as generous as we can be, and yes, we listen week by week to what Dave says, but somehow, from Monday to Saturday, things can go a bit wonky, and facing so many troubles we're hearing about in our media, we look on our computers, the world is not a happy place. And perhaps sometimes when we hear of the death of a loved one, that causes us perhaps to want to close our ears about what we think about our future. So my friends, let's go from here knowing that we are so loved by God. He wants the very best for us. He's going to be our friend. When he calls, he will equip. It's all about our availability, not our ability. And I'm sure some of us can look back and say thank you to God this morning for situations we've been in when God has got us through them. So we can entrust ourselves totally to the one who will walk with us day by day as our friend, the one who has come down to rescue us and all mankind, to give us a new relationship and to reinstate us. There you are, 3 R's. You can't have been a teacher without those. But do we want that relationship? It is ours for the asking. And perhaps we could pause for a moment. And please do remember that if you've been challenged by anything or you do want a chat, there are always people who would love to pray with you after the service. So just a few moments of quiet, reflecting on God's wonderful plan from the beginning when everything was so good and then it all went so bad, and he came down to rescue. As he rescued in the Old Testament, he sent Jesus to rescue, to be a friend, to walk with us day by day. Dear Lord, you know and love each one of us. You know with what thoughts and challenges we've come to church with this morning and which we'll have for the new week and perhaps for many weeks. We ask that we may entrust those challenges to you, thanking you so much that you are our friend, that each of us is valuable to you. Please help us to offer ourselves to give you our availability today and always. Amen.